make a fight here.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Inga me mo te wharenei, tēnā tātou katoa. Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to rise and take a call on the Wildlife Powers and Amendment Bill and look forward to it coming to one of the hardest working select committees in Parliament, the Local Government Environmental Committee, where I endorse the sentiments of the Chair to say we will give it a thorough scrutiny when it comes before us, Mr Chair. When reading the bill, and there's been some great contributions in the House this evening, Mr Speaker, and listening to all the contributions today, it talks about a good start, but clearly more work needs to be done in this bill. It's a simple bill, it's got two parts, and when I read it and listened to the contributions tonight, it reminded me, the analogy I drew was with a wharenui, or a whare tipuna. The strength of a whare is in its parts and how it's put together, Mr Speaker, particularly the tāhuhu or the ridgepole, which gives it the mana and the strength. And listening to the contributions today and the debate that's gone in the House, I do believe that there's still quite a bit of work to do, sir. Namely, when I look at the policy statement from submitted by the Department disclosure statement, actually, Mr Chair. It talks about the threat of proposing what this bill is and giving dock rangers more powers to investigate and to make arrests. But it also makes the point here around species that are also threatened by introduced predators and habitat loss. And so, sir, when I made the analogy of the wharenui and the tāhuhu, then we need to make sure that the wider context, the habitat in which our wild species and our plants are nurtured, and the contributions that people have made today, particularly in our water quality, that's an area that does need to be cleaned up if we are going to ensure that the bill that we are asking to consider in this House meets the intended purpose. It is about updating the Wildlife Act of 1953, as people have said, 60 years old. So I think it's absolutely important that we provide contemporary fit-for-purpose tools in terms of modernising the Act. But really, sir, not only is this bill being introduced to reduce the offending, but it's also about protecting our native species. Hence the reason why our habitat must be healthy. That is, our waterways, our native forest needs to be healthy. And the conjecture that this side has put is that we still have a long way to go. The water quality standard around being wadable is just not enough. It's not enough and it's not good enough. And this side, Labour particularly, want to ensure that our waterways are actually swimmable, fit to gather kai and fish out of. It's a basic right that many of us growing up in New Zealand had, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have that. But sir, back to my analogy of the tāhuhu, the ridgepole, we've got coercive powers being applied or given to dock rangers. But I also like to see if there's some educational resources made available so that we have a balance. So it's not all just around punitive, but also about education. We also made I heard comments in the House, sir, made around information sharing with customs. So a tāhuhu needs to be connected and related. So we have the work of the dock officers, sir, but we also need to make sure that we are sharing information at the border to prevent any of the species getting across our borders. Sir, I also heard, when I look at this, the opportunity of working in partnership with iwi and regional authorities so that all parts of the community, not just DOC, particularly with some of the resourcing being constrained, should be looking at partnerships that ensure that at the end of the day our native species are protected. And I'd like to see a bit more of that coming through in this bill. And like I said, hopefully we'll get some submissions in the Select Committee process. Talking about iwi though, Mr Chair, I turn to the section that talks about consistency with government's Treaty of Waitangi obligations. And one question, well actually it's not a question, it's probably a point that I want to raise here with members of the House, that when we have a section in our departmental disclosures, and I think I've said this before, and so I'll repeat myself, that when we have a section in our departmental closures that talks about is this bill consistent with the government's Treaty of Waitangi obligations, we cannot say that discussion with Te Puni Kōkiri meets that test. We cannot say that, Mr Chair, but time and time again, when I look at departmental disclosures statements under this particular section, it always says the department has talked to Te Puni Kōkiri. Can I make it really clear that Te Puni Kōkiri, or the Māori Ministry, the Development Ministry, is regarded by all Māori out there as a Crown entity? It is not the treaty partner. So, you know, again, I'll say this again, they are not the treaty partner. It's good that you noted that you're talking to them, but they're not the treaty partner. But what goes on, Mr Chair, in that section is that officials who prepared this spoke to Te Ruranga o Ngaitahu. As we all know, Te Ruranga o Ngaitahu is the iwi authority for Te Waipounamu, and that's unquestionable. But my point, sir, is that there are many more iwi who have settled with the Crown around the rest of the country that have DOC arrangements as part of their treaty settlements. And so therefore, I want to offer that if we are going to have bills in this House that have impact on iwi, that we do a much wider canvas than just Ngaitahu. That's my plea. So it's not ignoring the advice, but it's a plea for all the other iwi, and there are many around the country who have settled, but for some reason we haven't spoken. And to me, sir, it isn't good enough to say they can just come and make a submission through the Select Committee. I think if we're going to meet our obligations that this bill is saying it's going to do, then we must cast the net a lot wider than what has occurred here. So that's my only criticism with this bill, sir, is that I think we should have done a lot more research into the impact that this is going to have on our treaty partners, wherever they are. Big, large, small, urban, rural, coastal, all have relationship with the local Department of Conservation. And so I just think there's a wealth of experience and some information that was lost in bringing this bill to the House, sir. There isn't much more that I want to add, but those were my contributions in the first reading. Like I said, I look forward to it coming to Select Committee where we can debate it much more intensely and to hear from all those that obviously are passionate about our native species, sir. That we want to ensure that those that are still with us stay with us, and those that are on the verge of distinction also have the opportunity to be protected and looked after, sir. I stand and commend this bill to the House. Kia ora tātou.